Thank you, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. It is Monday, May 3rd. It's 3 o'clock. You are here for the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance's Get Legit webinar, all about ACPs, which hopefully everybody knows are annual cannabis permits. I want to take a moment here to thank a few of our allied industry business sponsors who are making this Get Legit series and work we do continuing to be possible. Big shout out to Vital Garden Supply, Ag Natural, Grow Generation, Gold Mountain Distribution, Elevation 2477, Four Seasons Garden Supply, Rolling Hills Bookkeeping, Moreland Consulting, Hometown Hydroponics, Foresters Co-op, Humboldt Seed Company, and SC Labs. Thank you to those sponsors. Briefly, if you are not aware, we are the Nevada County Cannabis Alliance. We are a nonprofit trade association representing the local cannabis community here in Nevada County. Our mission is threefold. It is advocacy, education, and connection. Policy and advocacy work is truly where the rubber meets the road. This is a community effort, and we are a member-based organization, and so there is strength and power in numbers. If you are not already a member, please, I encourage you to join. Advocacy and policy work is critical to this new industry, both on a local level and a state level. We also provide year-round education to our membership, both through our Get Legit permitting education series, as well as through our monthly industry affair calls. We have an upcoming industry affairs call on cultivating with metric that is a step-by-step walkthrough of how to go through your cultivation season utilizing metric, which is very important, on May 12th coming up. We also have an upcoming industry affairs call on the OCal program, which is the Organics Equivalence Program for California cannabis, which is very exciting and coming forward soon. All of our industry affair calls and our webinars are recorded and available to members at all times. We also have a buddy program that matches new members with fully permitted farmers that has been incredibly successful and helpful to get people on the right path and assessing their properties correctly from the get-go. And then we have the Alliance Slack workspace, which is a resource hub. We post policy updates in real time, all of our event information and more. It is incredibly valuable. I encourage everybody to check us out. If you have questions, reach out and let us know, and stay in touch. We're on social media. We have a website. Call us anytime. Yeah, become a member of the Alliance. We have a number of upcoming Get Legit webinars. Check out our website for all of them. The next one is this coming Thursday with Lucy Wilson, who is from the Nevada County Department of Agriculture. She will be presenting this Thursday as well as the following Thursday, both on integrated pest management and cannabis pesticide usage. If anybody and all commercial cultivators need their training for pesticide management, please tune into these. You can find more information online. And I want to hand it over briefly to our executive director, Diana Gamzon, for any further announcements before we get started.
I'm thinking maybe they're worried, like small quarters.
All right, Kelly, and hi everyone, thanks for being here. Two things that I wanted to mention. First, we have several educational Get Legit webinars that are going to be happening this month into next month. As a reminder, we do about anywhere from 3 to 4 webinars a month, from business skills trainings to regenerative farming for cannabis, as well as compliance and regulatory workshops. And I just want to let everyone know the upcoming ones, they're going to be very much in sort of a podcast format where you can go back and listen to them at your leisure. We understand it's a really busy time of the year for cannabis farming, so we're trying to make these as accessible for everyone as possible. And we've got a whole wealth of these webinars recorded for you as well. And keep an eye out to all of the members. Please keep an eye out in your email by mid this week. We are going to have a very important survey related to upcoming policy, local policy, and we really want to make sure that we get good participation from the Alliance membership on that. And thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you for that, Diana. Yeah, I will post our contact information in the chat feature. And just a note on the format for this afternoon's presentation, we have Thomas Maioli and Jason Basaw here from our Nevada County Cannabis Compliance Division. We are very grateful for their time today, and I want everybody on the call to know that there is the Q&A feature as well as the chat feature here, and this is really it is very important that people speak up, ask questions. You can ask questions throughout Thomas's presentation. We want to make sure that everybody's questions are answered today. And so just, yeah, make a point to speak up, and we will just type your questions in either of those features and we'll make sure to get to you. With that said, Thomas, I will hand it off to you.
Yeah, thank you, Maggie. Thanks for the introduction. As Maggie was saying, my name is Thomas Maioli. I'm with Nevada County Cannabis Compliance. Myself and Jason Basaw, who's also in on this meeting, we will be the ones conducting the inspections for the cannabis compliance, along with Scott Ekman's here today, and then also, you know, your other fire agencies, depending if you're in Nevada County Consolidated or Penn Valley, you'll see a number of inspections. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here.
Here we go.
Are we good?
Yep, that looks great, Thomas.
Okay. Is Maggie, is your screen changing?
I can see your screen, but no, the slides are not changing.
Okay.
Okay, I can see your main screen again.
Yeah, I apologize, guys. Something's
No worries.
not working here.
While we get that going, I just realized I didn't mean to not mention that we have Scott Ekman with us, who is the Nevada County Fire Marshal, or CAL Fire Planner. I forget the exact title, but we are very grateful for your time as well, Scott.
Where's my screen? All right, let's try this, guys.
I see your.
Thanks for your patience. Hold on one second, please. Yeah. I'm gonna try close out, restart here.
Okay.
So while I'm trying to bring this back up here, the intention of the this workshop today is staff was discussing ACP inspections and how they're going for the season, and we want to fine tune these so we could hit them on one try.
Okay, I see your opening slide. We had it working so well beforehand.
Yeah. All right, I think
There
this
we
might
go.
have it. All right, there we go. Thank you guys. I apologize. So like I was saying, the goal behind this is to get everybody up to speed, like what the process is, like what are the order of operations to get these ACPs issued and inspected. So just first off with the basics, definition of ACP, it's our annual cannabis permit. That's a permit issued by Nevada County in final form, allowing the permit holder to cultivate cannabis in our county. So this is what you're trying for. All this process, your submittal, your review, your conditional approval, we're all going for this goal here of this ACP. I just want you to keep in mind that the applicant will need to keep and obtain a valid ACP, and the ACP will need to be issued within 6 months of getting your approval. So keep that in mind for you guys coming up.
I'm going to interrupt just real quick. Somebody's saying that they can't see your screen, and I just want to, can other people type into the chat whether or not they are able to see Thomas's screen share? Okay, I think we're all good. I can see. Perfect. Thank you, everybody. Okay, go ahead, Thomas. Thank you. Sorry for that.
You're seeing this?
See the red around the bottom? So it's showing you that screen.
Perfect. There you go.
Yeah, I'm showing you the wrong screen.
It looks good. Everybody can see what you're looking at now.
Yeah,
Just try that one over.
this one doesn't click on anything.
All right, perfect, yeah, we'll get it going out there and get it back.
I apologize, guys.
It's okay. I think that this is working just fine how you have it right now.
Yeah, just do presenter.
Okay, we'll continue. All right, so again, so you want to get that ACP issued within 6 months of issuance. And we have plenty of time here. Maggie gave us a long period, so I only have 8 or 9 slides, so feel free to ask any questions. So the annual cannabis permit process. So this is kind of your order of operations. So the first thing, you're going to get conditional approval of your project. That's either your ADP, your administrative development permit, or your CCP, your commercial cannabis permit. So you're going to want to get that letter in your hand that says you've been conditionally approved. And then once you get that conditional approval letter, you're going to want to review all those conditions, from planning, environmental health, cannabis compliance, and you're going to want to make sure that you've met those conditions. So, keep in mind, scales and your pesticide with ag, any building permits, what else we got? Encroachments from public works. So you want to have all those things handled pretty much before you reach out to Jessica Riss. And what you're going to do is you're going to send Jessica Riss an email, and you're going to ask her for issuance of your permit. So what she's going to do is ensure, one, your fees are paid, and any outstanding balance of fees that you may owe are paid. So you'll be conditionally approved, paid in full, and then she's going to issue you your ACP card. It's I'll show you later, it's a blue slip of paper that requires some signatures. Okay, so when you get this is that 6 months period. But once you get the ACP, you have 90 days to have us out for your pre-cultivation inspections. So no surprises here. So this is where you guys come into play. You're already going through your conditional approval letter, and I got those all down. And then you're going to take your site plan, your approved site plan of which your project was reviewed. And you're going to ensure that every instance of that site plan is in the field, because that's what your project was approved for. You got your conditional approval. We identified, analyze all specifics of that project. So you're like, I'm ready to go. So next step is you call Cannabis Compliance, you call Jason or myself, you send us an email, and then you contact your appropriate fire district. So Scott Ekman, Clayton Thomas is going to be down Penn Valley, and you have Terry and Patrick in Consolidated. Okay, so this is just a generic site plan, but it's discussion point. So if anybody has any questions, this is a good screen to speak on. So no surprises. You know, this has the identified layout of the hoop houses, their locations, you know, property line verifications, setbacks. Fire's got their water tanks. We see your fencing and your security. That's just how we want it to be when we show up in the field. You know, we're completing ACP inspections where, you know, the proposed 6-foot metal deer fencing is 4-foot, you know, construction fencing, or not there at all, or the deer fencing is screening rather than fencing. So that's not what was reviewed. That's not what was approved for your guys' project. So just, again, have it match what's on your site plan. And then have your agricultural exempt structures be consistent with your site plan. Jason, do you have anything you want to add when you first roll up to a inspection, what you see?
Yeah, so exactly like Thomas said, what we've been seeing, and again, the site plan is what we're going to look at. So you'll have your own copy of the site plan, and exactly what's on there is what we're going to verify. So if you make changes when we're out for the ACP inspection, that's too late. But having said that, what I would recommend is if you decide down the road, you've already had your ACP issued and you decide you want to make a change, I would suggest following through with that ACP inspection as is before making any changes. Because once you're issued that ACP, that's what makes you fully legal. That will allow you to cultivate. And then if you want to make changes, then you can submit an amendment afterwards. But if you make a drastic change before your ACP is approved, that's just going to lengthen your time until you can cultivate. It's going to slow down the process. So like I said, if you're at the end and then you change your mind on something, I'd think really hard about following through with that ACP before making those changes. Get it issued, get started, and then further down the road, submit an amendment.
Yeah, so you don't want to, you know, scramble the egg, or, you know, before you get an inspection to work on an amendment. We want to get you approved first. So, so this is a ACP inspection checklist that Jason prepared. This is what we use in-house. And we've actually had a recent discussion, and Jason's going to be updating this to have a copy go to you, the applicants, with the issuance of your ACP. So when you contact Jessica Rist, she issues your ACP. It's now, hopefully shortly, will come with a ACP inspection checklist. So again, when we come out there, you know, we're only going to ask what you proposed. We're not going to ask for anything in additional. It already should have been reviewed, so there should be no surprises. Previous years, we've moved through ACP inspections really quickly, but particularly this last season, I think with the haste of everybody wanting to get, you know, plants and grounds so quickly, we've had to come back to a few sites. So these are just, you know, just a checklist. And I think what Jason's proposing to do is have a check box for you guys also. So when we come out, you've already addressed and you know what we're looking for. So this brings us to commonly missed items. So just not being prepared in general. So that consists of somebody got a conditional approval and they just called us out. And we get there and it's a blank piece of land. It's just no changes, or somewhere in between. And those ones are failing inspections just because they're not familiar with the process. You know, they didn't know that they needed the aspects of the project needed to be identified before we came out. So that one's simple. Most of these are simple. So the CDFA license not posted on site, that's a requirement of ordinance, and with the state, that one's easy. You know, often if that is an item that is missed during inspection, we'll hang around until the applicant goes ahead and posts it on site. Canopy area not identified in the field. This one's kind of like our most basic big one. This is one where, we're measuring, up to 10,000 square feet of canopy here, and your site plan has it identified on it. We just want to see it in the field. Often what Jason and I see are some sort of indicators, rebar, T-posts, mainly T-posts at the corner of the canopy boxes of the canopy area. That's typically the planter beds. And it's kind of does two goals. One identifies your canopy area, and the second that people use it for trellising, just for support of the plant for later in the season. Property line verifications, a majority of our projects come needing a property line verification. And then what we're seeing is the consultants are saying the applicant will have it done at the time of inspection. And I believe what's going on is there's a gap, and it's just an error that the consultant thinks the applicant's doing it, the applicant thinks the consultant's doing it. So that's something that we'll have to come back out and recheck. Security measures, like I referred to earlier, make sure your fences, your gates, your locks are up. Make sure your fences aren't screens, etc. Don't have 6-foot bamboo and put up shade cloth or bamboo screening. We got to keep these sites secure. Conditions of approval not met. So again, that's going to be back to your original letter. You're going to review all those, reach out to those appropriate divisions, make sure they're good before you get your ACP issued. So hopefully this one will be a non-issue in the future. Required building permits. So a lot of these new applications are coming in with vacant lands. Residents are submitted at the same time as the septics, sometimes as the wells. So, we're going to want to make sure that you have those permits that are required to have your ACPs signed off, issued. So if you have a new residence, a significant step towards development of that residence completed, often we see the footings are dug, something like that, with an RV occupancy. Because what that RV occupancy does is it establishes a residential use on site that's consistent with our ordinance, which keeps our CEQA safe. So these next ones here, if Scott wants to chime in, I'll read them off, but addressing, just make sure that you have clear addressing on site. And if required, a Knox box for your site. And then Scott's always going to be checking for fuel modifications along with the other fire captains. So Scott, you got any comments in this section?
Thomas, thank you. Not a whole lot to add in, just the fuel modifications for the driveway and the site itself around all buildings, and on certain projects that the fuel modifications extend out either to a main road. So it is a lot of work. However, it's the work that needs to be done is of value to the applicant and for the fire service in general to get in there, get the work done that's needed, and get out safely for everybody. So that's about it.
So how about Jason? Jason, you got any commonly missed that I didn't identify here?
No, those are the most common. I mean, I see the same kinds of issues. I will say that for very, very small items on a case-by-case basis, we can redline your site plan in the field, but those are for very minor instances. For instance, your canopy is just slightly off, your planter boxes are just slightly out of place. Again, we're going for accuracy so that, maybe I understand that there's an issue, but if I'm not the next one to come out to inspect, say Thomas is coming out for the next inspection, we need that accurate so that he then doesn't question what's going on, or that, hey, you made some changes since your first inspection. So we do have that available, but again, it's case by case for very minor instances. But those are the same items I commonly see.
Thank you. Yeah, like Jason was saying, the goal is just to get you guys approved, as long as you're consistent with your conditional approval and your site plan, and we feel it's comfortable and with, you know, our allowances to, you know, adapt, we will do that. So this is the annual cannabis permit. So this is what you guys are working for. This is once this is completed, you're fully approved. So, you know, you get your conditional approval, you know, part of that is, you know, getting your annual cannabis permit signed off. So as you can see on this, on the left-hand side, their signature is required. So when Jason and I pull up to the site, what we'll do is we'll give you a job copy of your site plan, the approved site plan. It's got stamps from Cannabis and planning on it, that's the site plan that we're going to use, and that's the site plan that shall be on site. So you're going to keep that site plan, you know, somewhere where it's not going to fade, that's not going to get wet, that's going to be protected. And it's not just for anybody, just cannabis and you know, cannabis compliance to use. If any state agency, if the ag department, if anybody shows up, you're just going to want to have this on site so you can show them that the site is truly how it was proposed. So as you can see below, the applicant is your fire agencies. So some of you will only have Scott Ekman signing your ACP card, and then others, if you're in Consolidated or in Penn Valley, you'll have one of those fire agencies' signature on that card. And only after they sign can Jason or myself sign on the inspection side. So on that inspection side, we have two signature blocks. So one is the pre-cultivation block. So that's your first inspection. This is, you know, mainly what this presentation is about here. So coming out, make sure everything's measurable. All the ag exempt structures are issued as approved. Security measures are in place. Just everything is tight and it's ready to go. Jason and myself will sign this pre-cultivation after the fire officials are happy. So then we have the cultivation inspection. So we're going to see you later in the season. We're going to see you before your harvest activities. And so what this site is, we already came out. So this was the, you know, previously we measured your canopy area. We checked your ag exempt structures. We checked your security. This is a site that we get to come out and we get to say, hey, everything looks good. Or, hey, you're getting a little big on your canopy area. You're you know, a little too far out on this right side. And we will come up with a game plan on how you're going to correct that. Typically, it might be trellising material run down the side and the flower push back in, trimming something. And it doesn't sound like a big issue being outside of your canopy area very much. You know, say if you're outside your canopy area a foot, well, we have beds that are a foot or 5 feet wide, you know, 100 feet long. So you're out a foot by 100 feet by 10 beds, you know, it starts to incrementally jump up really high there. So we use this again as more of a educational visit, information and education. Jason, do you want to sum that up or anything?
Sorry about that, Thomas. I think my internet can cut out there. So yeah, as far as the ACP, if you can coordinate it, or if we can coordinate it on our side, we try to go out with fire, but it doesn't always work through our schedules. And so ultimately we want to be the last schedule. So Thomas or myself, excuse me, we want to be the last signers once everything is approved. And then what we're going to ask people to is when they get their ACP issued, to arrange to come down to the Rood Center to also have both copies. So there's going to be 2 copies you'll get. We ask that you hold them so that when we come out or fire comes out to do the site visit, they can sign right there, because of COVID, we've been holding on to them, and then it's just been kind of a mess going back and forth, trying to catch each other with the signatures and causing delays. So if the applicant comes down, picks them up, I think that just saves time as well on getting those signatures on the ACP.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have Jason's updated inspection list to go with it. So yeah, just the goal of these is to get you guys signed off with one inspection, because truly there should be nothing that is coming at you from the side. Get your conditions of approval met, have all those divisions satisfied, have your site plan as proposed, and you know, we'll get to see you later in the season. All right, so you're approved. What's next? So cultivate within your allowances, you know, just you know, you do get inspected, you know, you might get a call by CDFA, the Ag Division might stop by, you'll have some people on site. Call us later in the season. Please don't rely on us to track you down to have that cultivation inspection. You know, we have a number of applicants. We just, you know, it's not a gotcha or anything. We just want to use it again as education and information. You know, it's just little tips and tricks. You know, once, you know, Jason and I see, you know, all these sites now going into our third season, you know, we have little things that we can mention that, you know, that we see somewhere else that may work in your situation that you need to, you know, quick correction on. So that's just the goal of that. And transition plan items. So, you know, I know everybody wants to cultivate and focus on the fun part, but keep an eye on your transition plan items. For those of you that have transition plan items, they sneak up on you. The timelines come up quick, especially if you're trying to get as-built permits for barns or something like that, or residences even. So keep an eye on your transition timelines, because if you start on it 6 months from the expiration, your deadline, that 6 months moves quick because you're also super busy at the same time. And then the last thing is the renewal. So once you made it through this first season, you have your cultivation inspection, you've had your pre-cultivation and your cultivation inspection signed off. We'll see you in a calendar year. So make sure you have that ACP issued again within that calendar year. And again, going back to Jessica Rist, she'll help you with the issuance of that. Make sure the fees are paid. And after that one, your second one's easy. You get to call Jason and I out. And as long as there's no changes, renewals are incredibly easy and quick if no changes have been done on site. So that's all I have. We didn't get any questions asked.
Thomas, you got a couple of items in the chat. You might want to see if you can answer real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We'll go through all of the questions here. And thank you so much for that presentation, Thomas. I will be happy to vocalize the questions if you, and then the three of you can choose who wants to answer them. So the first questions we have here are, there's a couple about deer fencing requirements, both what the height requirement is as well as the material requirement for deer fencing.
Jason, want me to crack out that one?
I can take it.
Okay.
So the ordinance doesn't specify height. However, it says that it has to be secure, and what we're securing it from is unauthorized entry from both children and adults. So it's kind of a judgment call. So a 3-foot fence, regardless of what it is probably not going to cut it. Additionally, this issue has come up more recently where we've seen plastic fencing, and it doesn't matter how tight you stretch that, you can pull it up anywhere. It's just not going to be secure. So what we want to see for fencing is ideally wire. We don't specify the type of gauge or whether it's welded or woven, but something structurally sturdier. So wire, of course, you can always do solid fencing, wood, sheet metal, panels. 5 feet we've determined would be adequate to secure. 6 feet. Of course, if you're a solid fence, you can't go over 7 feet. Shade cloth is not going to work as fencing by itself because that kind of falls into the realm of plastic. While it may visually obscure, it's not secure. It's something that no matter how tight you stretch it, you can easily pull up and lift from the bottom. So we are looking for wire, some kind of metal, solid material, sheet metal, wood, something to that.
And one last note, last question regarding fencing: is a permit needed if fencing is higher than, taller than 6 feet?
So it depends. So there's certain zoning regulations depending on where on the parcel it is, whether it's a street side or the front of the parcel versus the side. There's some setbacks, but generally speaking, you can go up to 7 feet, which any cannabis cultivation has to be outside the building setback, so it would definitely make that. So you can go up to 7 feet solid fencing. If you're going to go higher than 7 feet in solid fencing, you do need a permit. It's got to be actually engineered if it's higher than 7 feet, again, for solid fencing. Deer fencing, see-through fencing can be higher. And let me specify too, when we talk about deer fencing, some people refer to plastic, some people refer to metal. So deer fencing is okay as long as it's wire. It doesn't really, like when you say deer fencing, we've asked for clarification on site plans because some people think of it as plastic, again, some metal. So metal deer fencing, wire deer fencing is okay. Plastic is not.
Great,
And yeah, I'll just add to that. So I saw somebody popped up in the chat, I believe, that plastic's no longer allowed. Yeah, plastic was never intended to be allowed. We never had a issue with plastic deer fencing until this season. You know, you go back 19, 20 site plans and it says 6 foot deer fencing or 5 foot deer fencing. It's always been the rigid metal type. It's only this year that we've run into the plastic deer fencing, at least for me. And with that also, it's to secure your site. You grab the deer fencing on the bottom and you pull it up. It's not a, you know, it's not a way to adequately secure your site.
awesome, thanks. I'm gonna jump around here with some questions now. Who is currently doing fire inspections for Higgins Fire District?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
That would be me.
great. And maybe Scott, if you could do us the redundant favor of typing your contact information into the chat feature here.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then Scott, why don't you, can you go ahead and explain what areas you cover and then who the fire captains are from the other districts?
Absolutely. Yes, I cover the unincorporated areas of the county. So obviously, within the 3 cities for Troy, 2 cities and 1 town, Truckee, out of my jurisdiction, as they have their own fire marshals. Also for the Penn Valley area and for Nevada County Consolidated, they also have their own fire marshals, and they will be reviewing the projects, basically all the components on the site, your water, your turnarounds, all that kind of stuff. I still will be involved on every one of those as well. However, it'll be at a smaller scale as I'm only on behalf of the SRA, the state responsibility area, fuels and defensible space and fuel management of those parcels. So I will cover town of Washington, North San Juan, Paradise Chicago Park, Ophir Hill, Higgins, and Higgins District. Did I miss any? I think that's it.
Great, thank you. Next question. Aside from canopy area being identifiable, are there other aspects of the site plan that can still be under development when an ACP is issued?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, go ahead, Jay.
okay. So in terms of when we go out there and what is done and not, so some people will submit applications in phases. And so say for the first phase, it's outdoor and planter beds. And then the second phase for say 2022 is mixed light with hoop houses. So when we come out there, obviously we're not going to see both. So if it's in phases like that, when we come out there, first phase, we expect to see the outdoor cultivation with a matching state license. Now, in some cases too, this will be in your conditional letter of approval. So again, that's why it's important to read. Perhaps you're approved for a fully permitted greenhouse. That's part of your plan, part of your application, all one phase. And you simultaneously applied for a permit. Let's say there's something that held you up. Maybe some more engineering needed to be done. Maybe you hit hard bedrock, something of that nature. And so the conditional approval will be that you cannot use the greenhouse for cannabis cultivation until it's fully permitted. So we can go out, inspect, you can show us where you're going to put your fully permitted greenhouse. We can approve your ACP, and you just cannot cultivate inside or that area until that's finalized. In some cases, some people have both structures and outdoor, say a mix. And so if we approve your ACP, you can grow outdoor, and then we'll have a condition of approval that you can't plant in a hoop house until you have your ag exemption or if it's been inspected or approved. So it is possible to not be fully developed. But again, it depends on certain things. Now, if you plan on grading, if there's extensive grading that needs to be done and anything cannabis related, any cultivation activities are on top of that grading, that's going to stop you right there because for one, you can't have anything on top of unpermitted graded area. So it just kind of depends on the nature, but by that point, you probably wouldn't have your ACP issued. So yes, it is possible.
And just to extend on that, when you read your conditional approval, they'll have Jason and my memo in it. And, if you have items like that, we'll say that the 5,000 square foot processing building isn't to be utilized for cannabis activities until it's, been issued, final, and approved. So we'll even, tell you those items. But yeah, just communication, we can work it out. And then Maggie, I'm going to just extend on to the next question that I see. It's kind of riding on the same point of not being ready. So the question is regarding an ACP inspection within 6 months after approval. What if you get your PLN approved prior to starting any construction or modifications on your property? And there's over a 6 month build out timeline. So work those dates. So you have 6 months to get your ACP issued, and then you have 90 days to get us out there. 90 days is a long time. We'd like to see you sooner than that. So if you just work those dates and that timeline, and then if you're running into problems, just consistent communication. I had an applicant who didn't hear from for a while, who was, I consider on top of it, then just let the consultant handle their project. And by the time I got out for inspection, I was wondering why this person takes so long to have me out. Well, they had an incredible project. They had grading and ag exempt structures, and their fencing was amazing. And it's a true, be kind of like what, we would like, cannabis to look like in our county. Is just a great site. You feel comfortable, taking board supervisors to, and, things like that. So those sites do take longer build outs. So if we're getting close, just communication.
Awesome. Next question is, do we have to have ACP finalized by July 1st? How is this possible if inspections are 3 months out?
Yeah, I'm going to jump on that one. I saw that one come through earlier. the rumor mill must be spinning on 3 months out. If you contact Jessica and she can get that issued, Jason and I are adaptable and we'll be out in days. Nobody's waited over,
That's awesome.
10 days for an inspection. We do have a lot of inspections going down this time of year, but there's just, if anybody can assist with 3 months inspection times, by the time you get them, you contact Jessica and get us out, we could probably do that within 2 weeks.
Awesome. That's why we have these webinars, is to squash rumors. Next question is, if the site plan shows proposed structures, greenhouses, do those have to be constructed before the ACP inspection? If everything else is in place, can the canopy markers be posted but not yet fully constructed?
The proposed kind of throws me off a little bit because it seems like everything with a new application would be proposed.
I think if that was potentially in the concept of maybe like a phased plan, and your I'm just thinking out loud, maybe that's something that you are planning to do in the future, but maybe not for this first season.
I'll take this one, Thomas.
Yeah.
So I have come across this situation in the field doing an ACP inspection where it was, again, half the canopy was outdoor, half mixed light. And they showed me, on the site plan, I saw the proposed greenhouse, but it just wasn't up yet. So what I had to have them do was at least throw in T-posts, because I have to have something to measure. I got to see that it's at least going to go where it's supposed to. So yes, though it's proposed, I need to measure it out as part of the canopy. And so corner markers are fine. They're adequate until the structure goes up. And then when the structure is there, we'll see it during the next inspection. But yeah, that could be something that's not fully set up yet, that, again, we can come out and see and measure. And then, it depends if it's ag exempt. But like Thomas said, just talk to us, let us know what's going on, make it clear in your application or your site plan, if it's proposed or future or when it would go up. And we can always talk about that beforehand if you're wondering if it needs to be up. Communicate.
Yeah, and then we do this on this year mainly was the phased sections. You throw a date on those on the site plan, July of 2022. So when we come out, we know what we're looking for. What's different? Well, this wasn't here before. Oh yeah, well, it's going to be there in July of 2022. So yeah, let's just talk about it, because I think we can find a solution.
Next question is, how much time before if I have a current ACP, how much time before it expires should I submit for the renewal application?
So they're annual. So the date that it's issued is going to start your timeline for your next calendar year. So, or your next year, sorry. So you don't want to contact us months earlier, or, a month and a half earlier, because you'd technically be losing that, month. Jessica's not here, and I don't want to give her too much, but I'd say 2 weeks is probably sufficient. 3, just a heads up. And once you reach out to Jessica, she'll start that communication and that timeline with you, and she'll get it taken care of. She'll get it issued. She's not going to let it go by your date.
Great. If you have an outdoor cultivation site and I have not constructed my ag exempt hoop houses for drawing on site plan, is that okay? So I think the question is if there were ag exempt hoop houses for drawing on a submitted site plan, but they haven't been constructed yet, is that okay?
So again, that kind of goes back to, is it a condition of approval? Have you already applied for an ag exemption and it's been approved and you just don't have the structure up yet? Again, at least have the T-posts or corner markers in place so that we can see where it's going to be and measure it. And again, that would be a condition of approval. I mean, you're obviously going to want the structure if you're drying, but that is something that.
Yeah, we'll like Jason said, if you're doing outdoor, then we'll take a look at that. But we're going to come back out for the cultivation inspection. So if you're going to use a hoop and it's going to be for drying, that's going to be closer to the timeline of your cultivation inspection. So, because you're going to have flower to dry in, right? So we could take care of that at that time of the cultivation inspection.
Now I think it's time to talk about July 1st and maybe clarify why that date's being thrown around and what needs to happen by that time.
Yeah, so the date's not being thrown around. It's down and in writing, and the board determined that July 1st would be the appropriate deadline for the plants and ground memo. So you want to get approved and get your ACP issued and have us out prior to July 1st. And we're going to do everything we can do to help you guys hit those timelines. Call us, email us, questions. What should I do? Just reach out. We've had, previous seasons where it stretched into the next, and the plants and ground memo this year has a July 1st sunset.
And maybe just touch on, for those who won't make the July 1st deadline, what that looks like.
Yeah, so if applicants who have a submitted project that was conditionally approved, they're to have everything completed by that date. If not, you should have identified that you shouldn't have plants on site for that season until you're approved. We have many applicants who are trying to push the rush, and they're working hard, and they're staying in contact with their consultants, and they're writing their engineers for building permits, and they're actively engaged. I'm not worried about those people. I think they could do it. I'm worried about the people who do not have the active engagement with those who are assisting them in their projects. Just stay on top of it. Just keep moving.
And I want to just say thank you, Scott, for continuing to answer some of the questions in the chat feature here. And I want to, I want to just put, I know this is sort of redundant, but it is just on people's minds, I know, but I have my conditional letter of approval. I am wanting to get that ACP now. There are what feels to me maybe minor differences to the site plan that I submitted, and now I am really scared and I'm nervous to schedule my ACP, and I don't know if I should call you and just talk about it, or what do we do? How do we deal with this?
Talk to us, call. Nobody wants surprises. We don't want surprises. There's really no benefit to waiting to see if anything will happen. If Jason and I are in the office, we'll pick up the phone or return an email. We're often not this time of year, but just the communication, small changes, like Jason mentioned earlier, there is possibly little tweaks we could do, depending on how minor they are. We can't come up with a plan to adapt unless we know we need to. So everybody here is trying to get you guys approved. because we got to get the next guy approved. And as soon as we can, sign your card and put your file on the shelf, we're going to help the next people. So just get a hold of us. And, we've had enough experience now with 3 years. We've probably seen something similar before, and we try to be consistent on how we handled with those people. So,
and I think that goes to Sue's question in the chat here, but I think a way to, get a head start on site, on inspections and be proactive is to really be communicating with you guys. Would you add anything to that in ways that people can really be more proactive and to try to catch any surprises ahead of time?
I touched on it earlier, is the applicants I worry about are the applicants that aren't actively engaged in their project. There's many things missed, that the consultant and the applicant think each other are handling. I would say that's primarily, a majority of them is, we had ACPs not get issued just because the applicant thought that the consultant was doing it. And the consultant's position is, I got you approved. This is, so communication with your consultants, with your engineers, will take care of a majority of these things. So talk to us, talk to them.
And then question here, what will happen if an ACP inspection takes place after July 1st and there are tagged plants on site?
So there's kind of some inconsistencies with that statement. If the ACP inspection is conducted and there's tagged plants, hopefully you're conditionally approved. We issued your ACP, so that's not rising to the emergency level, but you're supposed to be approved. We'll have to address the issue though. How far out are you? How we're going to handle it. It's going to be a first season for these things in our county. So anything you want to add on that, Jason?
Yeah, don't rely on that or that we can bend or we try to be as accommodating as possible, but that July 1st date is pretty hard. It's by ordinance, by county law. So you really need to do that. So as the ordinance is written, what we're supposed to do if you do not have a signed and approved ACP by July 1st is you have to abate those plants. So we want to avoid that. We don't want to have to make you do it any more than you want to do it. So there is some inherent risk in having the plants in ground before you're fully approved. So stay on top of it. Don't wait till June 25th to start worrying about your ACP inspection. I mean, have it planned out. Have a game plan as the time gets closer and you're still having issues. Communicate with us, talk to us, give us at least a heads up, and then maybe we can come to a solution that's not going to bust that July 1st deadline.
Just keep it, I like to refer to, the plants and ground memo as like an olive branch. We're like, hey, come on in, get started, get your applications in, we'll work with you. Let's thanks for coming, right? But you just got to do your part. That's all the plants and ground memo is it says, thanks for being a part of our program, but we have some dates and rules we got to adhere to. So.
Great. We are almost at the top of the hour. This has been such important and useful information. I want to ask Scott if he has anything that just comes to his mind that he wants to make sure everybody hears once more, and just make sure that people remember this regarding fire requirements.
I thank you. No, the main focal point is is having what's on paper match what is there on the land when it's time for that inspection, and ensure that, there's a lot of notes and small fine print on those site plans that are involving fire in some way, shape, or form, whether it be fuel modification or something to do with your building. Be sure you're following those and reading those notes to the T, as those are part of the conditional approval. So
Great, thanks for that. Yeah, and I just want to,
and
please.
and real quick, the fire department connection can hook up directly to the holding tanks. However, reach out to me when the fire engine is connected to the fire department water or stored water, it needs to be in a position that once it's connected to it, it's not very easy to disconnect it and move it. It takes a minute. So that fire engine needs to be in a fashion that it doesn't impede or block further access. So have that in consideration when you're placing your holding tank or your fire department water.
Great. There's a question here specifically actually for you about, can a fire hydrant hookup be attached directly to holding tanks?
Yes, and that's what I was just speaking to.
Perfect. And then there's a question here asking where you can find regs for things like roadway widths and other fire safety road requirements.
So that I created a document, about a 4-pager, 5-pager when I got in the position, and it is available through the Alliance, as well as it's also on mynevadacounty.org. And if you search, go on to My Nevada County and search common fire. It's because the document is called Common Fire Safe Regulations for Commercial Properties, and it'll quickly pull up, and you can print that, and it has all of greater, as is appropriately labeled or named, the common ones that you'll be dealing with.
Great. Yeah, and to all Alliance members, we have that information available on Slack, and you can reach out to us anytime. We can help you find the exact any type of regulations that you're trying to look for. Another question that is specific to you, Scott, are there brush or fire clearances required for water holding tanks? Can they sit under trees?
Yes, they can. It's not a building that you're inside of, or it's just a water tank, so that it doesn't need to have any fire requirements. Of course, we don't want it to catch fire. However, I just jogged my memory. There is something coming on that, and so currently, no. In the future, yes.
And to extend on that, we'd want to check with planning. Planning has concerns of what's going in the drip line of oaks. So I know we had some storage containers before sitting under oak canopy, which was in the drip line of the oak. So those had to be moved. So if you do have a proposal or something like that, let's talk about it so we don't have to address it later.
We had 2 more quick questions come in. The first is, how long does it take for ag exempt structures to be approved?
So ag exempt structures, typically they're quick to approve, right? Because they're consistent with your project that we're reviewing concurrently. They're going to be approved conditionally. They're just not going to be released until your ADP or your CCP is approved. So the idea behind that is we don't want to give you a ability to potentially have an issue on site. Like say you get 35 foot by 100 foot ag exempts and you put them on place, but yet there was a project with your ADP and they're already in a location. So it might sound burdensome, but it's actually to prevent issues. So that's why permits are typically held with the ADP, because you don't want something happening to the land if that project's not approved. You don't want that damage or whatever it is to be completed.
Cool. And then can applicants expect departments to, after their first round of comments are received, should they anticipate further requirements being added?
Okay, I'll give this one a shot. So the goal is to hit everything first round. I mean, that is the goal. We don't want to, pepper you with conditions because they're requirements, because that may have to do a resubmittal. But there are instances, something that affects planning, may change your project, and the pieces kind of change. So you might get an additional approval if something happened and now Scott has a condition. So those instances do happen. I would consider them rare, but there's usually a trigger. It's not usually we just want to keep adding them down the road.
Cool. And then if your ag exempt hoops are on grade, can the permit be released before the ADP?
So there is it might be 3 months old now policy. It's the same policy changes. Looking to see a date on it that came out that addressed. I think we released it around the same time. The plants and ground, the RV occupancy, the ADA toilets, that packet that was released from our divisions. There's a policy that outlines that question. So we'd want to see if your specific issue can cover the release. If it can, planning will be open to that. That's going to be their call, but there is a memo that you could kind of identify the criteria.
And I'll just say this, that memo is located, if you go to the Alliance website, there's a news section and there's a blog all about those policies that were released in the news section. And so you can find a direct link to those policies there. And then it's also on we can send it to people on Slack and other places.
And then in terms of Kyle's questions here about permit process timelines, I will just go ahead and say that we here at the Alliance, with our Get Legit permitting education, always encourage people to give themselves a solid 4 to 6 months to get through the full local and state permitting application processes. And those vary all the time depending on the scope of the project. Very simple full season outdoor can be some of the shortest timelines, and the more complex the project and the more permits and so forth involved will extend that timeline on a very case-by-case basis. Is there anything any of you would like to add to that statement?
Yeah, Maggie, I'll say, again, it depends. Are you building a house too? Is it a vacant parcel and you need to build a house? Because that's going to drastically extend your time frame. Some of the quickest permits we've seen come through, again, simple, no grading, no tree clearing, no waterways. Again, the ideal quick application would be you already have an open field and you're growing outdoors, no additional buildings, no code violations, no transition plan needed. Those would go through the fastest. So it's when you start getting complex, you start needing engineering, grading, permits, all that can add time to it. And some of that's on the applicant too, of how fast you can address the comments or corrections that the various departments have issued. Some can be done real quick. Sometimes we're just asking for, hey, you forgot a copy of your surety bond. So if you wait a month to get us a copy of that surety bond, that's delaying your project by that much. If it's something you already have and you can just email us back the next day or the same day, well, then it's just that much faster to get it back.
Yeah, I'll just add on the state side of things, it looks like the state is turning around licenses quicker than ever. I think they're getting them done in 60 days approximately. Um, I was just looking through my email. I got state license, we call them pings, on Saturday and 4 on Sunday. So the state's working weekends now, which I didn't know that was possible. And then just to, to reassure those timelines, we'll always give you a response within 30 days. You'll hear from us, throw at us your projects. We'll respond. It's like what Jason was saying. Don't sit when it's in your hands for basic items. Don't, get to it the next week. Just stay on top of it. And again, it's applicants who stay in communication with their consultants and their engineers that make it through the fastest. They're working for you, right, guys? So I would say, stay on top of them.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And I think that is typing in some answers for some of these road things. Great. If there are other questions, now is your moment. And I just want to remind folks that communication is key always, and to not fall out of communication at any point with the county or your consultants or your engineers or whoever it is that you are working with throughout this process. And I also want to remind you that this is recorded and available to revisit. If you are not already an Alliance member, please reach out to us. I will put our contact information in the chat feature here. And I want to encourage everybody to just stay in communication with the county. Don't be afraid to ask questions as they come up. And timelines are critical, 12 months out of the year in this process, and we will continue to stress that. And yeah, are there any final thoughts? Sue, the answer to your question about max amount of dirt is 50 yards. Is that right? For grading. Scott typed that in up here. Yes, if you move over 50 yards of earth, you need a grading permit. Yes.
I have a comment for everyone, which is that it's really, there's a message throughout this presentation. It's that it's really important to be your own general contractor of your permit and of your permitting process. Know what's going on, know what your deadlines are. Even if you are working with engineers or consultants, you are your own general contractor, and we are here to support you. You are not alone. There's a lot of resources. It seems like there's a lot of steps, so it may seem like a cumbersome process, but it really is not. It's not a difficult process, and we are here to support you along the way. You have community and you have resources.
And if we're just wrapping up, it's your ACP inspection. The term inspection may sound scary. It's just Jason and I. We've known each other, through this whole process. Again, we're only asking to have on site what you propose to us. There's nothing that you should worry about the county coming out or anything. Just have us out. Let's get it done. And then when we get to see your cultivation inspection, that's our tips and tricks, education, information, and then I see a number of people in the chat are all already approved applicants. And the next seasons we come out, it's basically like our time to catch up, see each other in the field, see how things are going, see how you guys are doing. So we like those. We like seeing you guys on the field.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We are really grateful for your continued support. And I just want to reiterate to everybody on the call, There is another Get Legit webinar this coming Thursday. The following Monday of our Get Legit webinars are typically on Thursday afternoons. Every following Monday, we do have a permitting support group at 3 p.m. These Thomas and some other county staff offer their time generously to come, and these are open Zoom calls that are very functional, very useful for folks to ask site-specific questions. Just know that the support is here for you as you go through these processes. So reach out, lean on us, utilize the resources available to you so that you can have a healthy, successful business. And at that, I will just say thank you to all of you. I hope to see everybody again on Thursday for our next Get Legit webinar on cannabis pesticide safety and use with the Ag Department. And yeah, we will continue. Keep up the great work, everybody, and have a great rest of the week.